Hello everyone and welcome to our third episode in our tutorial series. Today it's all about the important subject of lighting. We're going to talk about lighting and natural light and best practices on how to use both.
Welcome to beautiful Climax Street, overlooking Atlanta, Georgia, downtown. Blue hour morning shot, and our car into position. Alan's getting the camera up. We're trying to get a shot of downtown Atlanta with our vandalized car here. Just as the sun's coming up, or right before the sun's coming up, so if we can get all this shit together in time, it'll be good.
Magic hour and blue hour are two of the best times of day to shoot with natural light. Magic hour is the hour leading up to sunset or just after sunrise, and blue hour is the short time after the sun goes down or just before it comes up. Blue hour is great for night scenes, and magic hour lighting can be taken advantage of for its soft and warm qualities that make your shots live up to its name. As you can imagine, working within these limited times of day, you must ensure you've planned your shoots in advance.
Painting a scene with light is more about using different lights to create certain mood, feelings, and tone, or enhance the story that a director is trying to tell. So as a cinematographer, it's your job to really make sure you convey whatever the director is looking for with lighting, camera movement, and yeah, kind of all of that mixed together. If we're trying to light something moodier or something funnier, or if we're going for something moody in this room, it's obviously to tell that there's going to be an interesting conversation, maybe something happened, something's about to happen, something that adds drama. So therefore we paint this scene with more of a dramatic, stylized lighting.
Lighting is one of those very important aspects of cinematography that, although integral, it doesn't necessarily follow a specific set of rules, since a different lighting setup of the same scene can create a different mood and tell a different story. Having said that, here are some of the main and most common terminology for lighting placement. First, let's talk about the key light. A lighting setup always starts with setting up the key light first. By definition, this is your main light for the scene and is used to illuminate your actor or subject. For dramatic uses, experiment with the key light's placement. For example, placing the light on the side of the actor can create a dramatic or mysterious effect. After setting up the key light, you will end up with some shadows on your actor or subject. This is where the fill light comes in, to fill those shadows. Typically, the fill light is placed opposite the key light and at a lower power than the key light. Sometimes a fill light can be achieved using a reflector. Thirdly, let's talk about the backlight. To help separate your actor or subject from the background and to create depth, a backlight is placed behind and typically higher your actor or subject. Now let's talk about practical lights. Lamps, candles, car lights, a TV, computer monitor, or phone screen can all be used as a practical light. This can enhance your story by creating some unique and dramatic effects. A couple of ways to shoot a natural light is to use the sun as your backlight. Almost always avoid overhead sunlight. Don't have the sun blow out your actors' faces and create harsh shadows, creating an unflattering look overall. The lighting will be even on your actors if the sun is behind them, while it will also help separate them from the background better. So try to use the sun as your backlight instead.
So generally speaking, as a cinematographer, you should always scout the location prior and determine which lights where will suffice. And after that, take your time, make your plans, show up with a solid idea that you can execute or at least try on. A lot of our contributors, however, do use natural and practical lighting, but I highly suggest at least trying to introduce some professional lighting elements and executing them or experimenting, as in the end that will definitely dramatically increase the quality of their scene, their shots, and their final product. My favorite lights to work with are light mats, and it's something that we're using here. They're extremely thin LED lights, and they serve a very specific purpose, but they're always easy to use, easily applicable in every situation, and fast, efficient, and they produce great light.
Location is obviously very pivotal to your film. This is a smaller short film production, so we wanted to choose locations that already had great lighting, so we didn't have to set up too much. Obviously we have a little bit today, we're having to still block.
This particular location is a perfect example for utilizing natural light properly or appropriately. In this case, the light is quite diffused based on what's going on outside. We had some bounds on just to fill it in, but we never really set up any lights. As long as the exposure is correct and the quality of light is there, I think you should be always good to go. And even if you do introduce lights, your goal should always be to recreate natural light. When you light stuff, it should never look lit. It should feel like there are no lights and like as if you've done no work. Best work shows no work, I think. And in this case, we were pinched for time, and you know, depends on your scenario, of course, but sometimes just got to roll with it and work with what you have, which is this natural light.
Shooting in natural light can be very liberating, and you can achieve some amazing results when done well. But make sure that you plan your shoots in advance and bring the right tools for the job, because natural light can be notoriously hard to control. Things like bounce, ND filters, and flags can all help with all of that. Also important to consider the timing of day that you're going to shoot. And don't forget about your story, because all the different ways you're going to use natural light can really enhance that story.
We use ND filters to help us maintain our exposure, T-stop or f-stop, in a way that when we maintain the shallow depth of field and you want to be wide open at 2.8 and shallow depth of field where your background is blurry and your character or objects in focus, you want to be, you can't really do that out in a sunny day. So for that you really have to apply NDs. And some cameras have it built in, some cameras you have to buy them for and use matte boxes for that as well. But ND is pretty much like sunglasses for the lens, and from there on you can open up to get that shot of the field.
Oftentimes when you're shooting in naturally lit settings, especially super wide settings where you can't hire somebody to operate a crane with like a massive boom, which most of us don't have the resources for, I oftentimes like to use the play off of skyscrapers, the sun hitting a skyscraper, using that as like a diffusion or a bounce. So right here we have a beautiful massive skyscraper over to my left that's side lighting my face perfectly, a very cheap and easy way to create some pretty dynamic lighting without having to set up any lights whatsoever.
Sometimes with any light, the light can be a little bit harsh or a little bit too punchy, too strong, or maybe the light is too strong on your talent and the background is too dark, or there's hard shadows, or you're trying to make it look more natural. Again, the goal is to always aim for this natural look. So you can always introduce diffusion, and that way it can soften out your light. So sometimes it will help with the hard shadows, sometimes it will it'll just make it look less sourcey, less punchy.
When filming in natural light, bounce is your friend.
Oftentimes when you're using LED practical lighting or fluorescent lighting, like all of these light sources have different power refresh rates. And what happens is if the power refresh rate and the shutter speed on a DSLR or a shutter angle on a more prosumer camera, higher end camera, if those don't match, you get flicker oftentimes. That's very, very difficult or almost impossible to fix in post. Some light sources just won't work at all because the power refresh rate either is coming from a bad power source or there's too much or too little power going to the actual light source, so there's a mismatch, and that'll give you the flicker. But that's just something to be very, very mindful of because it can completely ruin your shot and be distracting to see that flicker on the sensor. So if that problem does arise, You only need to adjust your shutter angle on a higher end camera or the shutter speed on a DSLR. Usually somewhere between like 1/60th of a second and 1/80th of a second will fix most of that flicker, but it's just something that you have to play around with until it looks right in camera.
We're shooting a scene where it's happening in blue hour early in the morning. Big issues with this, blue hour doesn't last for long. The sun's already coming up, and for this shot, ideally there would be no sun, but we might be able to play it around. In these cases, we would block the sun with something like a big flag or 20 by 20 further up so we're out of frame, but not in this case because we're running out of time and don't have the resources. So we have to make do. Sometimes you just gotta make do with what you have.
Well, thanks for watching. Hope you learned lots. I'm gonna try to win this thing, by the way. Oh, here we go. Join us next time, though, for an episode all about motivated camera movement, one of my favorite subjects. And if you like this episode, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave us some comments. Have a beautiful day. I'm gonna try to get this. Shooting in natural light can be very... I have the giggles now. This is great. It only took 50 takes. And all the different ways natural light can enhance that story. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. This.